Folks, welcome in to sportsbookreview.com. It is Monday, and it's time to talk some NFL action. Monday Night Football tonight between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, and we get a fresh preview of the Week 4 card. I'm Donnie RightSide along with Purviance. We are the sportsbookreview.com NFL team, and it's time to get to business today. I'm going to cover while the dogs are barking out here because I did want to say this while we clear the air here. The Pick Six contest went very well for both of us, Kyle, as we like to say. 5-1 for me. What did you actually go?
A couple bad beats. I went 2-4, which is sad because I had a great week picking. My team total said everything was cool, but some bad beats in that Pick Six. So I got work to do. I can't fold up. I can't give up. I can't get mad. We got to grind away. I got to get that lead back because this is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's good stuff. By the way, interesting doings here on Sunday, as we've seen, all throughout the league, Seattle not playing up to their capabilities, no Dalvin Cook. But the one thing I think we can agree on before we take a look at some of these opening lines and certainly get to some Monday Night Football, Kyle, is the simple fact is we avoided the pitfall, right? We came together on Sunday, do the closing line. We're like, now look, this line stinks to high heaven with the Pittsburgh Steelers now only -2.5 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. You almost wanted to jump in that game and say, how low is too low? And we said, particularly from my side, you will be screaming at your TV by the late second quarter in this one. Why did I bet on Ben Roethlisberger? Atrocious performance. At least we avoided that pitfall, Kyle, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are just a fade at this point, right? I was encouraged by one thing. Najee Harris being involved in the passing game when Juju Smith-Schuster went out. He's the one running back playing every offensive snap. So that'll be something to be, for props and for DFS type stuff. But other than that, Pittsburgh, just stick a fork in them, right? They're done. They're done.
No, they look like a bad football team right now, but it's not a bad environment here. The Pick Six contest that we just talked about here, guess what's up for grabs? $50,000 during the regular season, $1,600 per week. As well as like to say, I pick all NFL games. Kyle does the same. But if you wanted to mix and match, if you wanted to go all college football games, we're 3 games apiece, or 4-2, or 1-5. It doesn't matter. As long as you have 6 picks in by the week and also hit your double down game, you can add to those points here and cash in big right here at sportsbookreview.com. So get in that tournament because it's free. And if it's free, it's me. Let's not waste any more time, Kyle. Let's get to this Monday Night Football game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Take a look offshore at Pinnacle. -3.5, -112. Still sitting in that same spot. A little bit lower juice. -3.5, -104. Taking a look here in New Jersey. FanDuel opened up at 3.5. What do we still sit today at? 3.5. Primarily 3.5s across the board, all the way across. And I think that is a fair line here. The totals opened up at 51.5. They haven't moved at all, Kyle. Sitting at 51.5. So we are expecting points tonight. Looking at this game, I'm going to be cheering on the Eagles, no doubt about it. Do I think they can win the football game? I do. That's why the line is only 3.5 and not 7.5 or 10.5. It's going to come down to, can the offense move the football against this Cowboys defense, which isn't a very good one. Banged up on the defensive line, average linebacker play, not great in the secondary, but you're still dealing with a rookie head coach going on the road with a young quarterback and a young receiving core. It looks great on paper. Can you do some damage like you did versus Atlanta week 1 on the road? He came home, lost a tough one there to the San Francisco 49ers. Now you go back on the road on Monday Night Football, and I have to say, Dallas played Tampa Bay, who's a very good team. Should have won that game. Dallas played the Chargers, who are a very good team. They won that game here, Kyle. So just looking at tonight's game from that perspective, the 3.5, I think, is a perfect number here because I can see somebody saying, give me the extra hook on this one. I'll take the Eagles. Should be a close one. I get it because if you're betting the Dallas Cowboys, you anticipate winning by 4+ or more. Basically, a touchdown or more is what you're going to have to get this done by. I think the Eagles will be in this, but I can't say, Kyle, I'm rushing to the window to take the Eagles even with the 3.5.
It's really, really tough. I completely agree. When you rewatch that Eagles 49ers game, which I've had a lot of joy doing throughout the week, and then you kind of see that Niners defense with some holes in that secondary last night. Yeah. It's tough to take a lot from because it's Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Hurts. I mean, you couldn't have two, a bigger gap in terms of ability and playing the quarterback position. And the Dallas defense is certainly beatable. I had the Eagles team total 23.5 circled all week long. I do think they get there. The question is, can this Eagles team, which right now they have some inflated defensive numbers. Let's not forget week 1, they played a pathetic and anemic Falcons team, and the Falcons didn't show up for that game, only put up 6 points. Then last week, the 49ers offense, we're not talking about the greatest offense in the world here. So some of the defensive backs, their numbers look a little bit better for the Eagles, but they're certainly beatable back there. Darius Slay, maybe he's having a resurgent year after what happened last year, but Steven Nelson and Avonte Maddox are two marks on the outside. CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson, who's replacing Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, they should all have a good game. The Eagles are going to have to score to keep here. I would lean that over 51.5. It would not shock me if this game was right on the nose, 28-24, half point over the over, and Dallas covers by exactly 4 points, and the Eagles hit their team total as well. Really feels like that's going to be a closer game, but it's hard for me to not take Dallas. I've been impressed with the Cowboys, and I love the bag on the Cowboys, but I thought they looked great last week. And hey, they almost beat the defending champs against a good defense, put up a ton of points in that week 1 game. Eagles certainly live dogs. I understand the logic there, but for me, I'm leaning the Cowboys -3.5. I just think they look better right now as I watch the two teams play. Dallas to me looks better. They look like a more complete team, and you got to love what Dak's doing on offense. And I do think this plays to the over because you're right, that Cowboys defense, very exploitable. I know the Chargers didn't score a ton of points, but let's not forget they had 3 touchdowns called back from penalties and gave up a ton of yards, 480 some yards of offense. So both defenses beatable here. We know the strength of the Eagles is in that front 7, a little bit banged up, of course. Brandon Graham, he's gone, right? Brandon Graham's out for this game, I believe is correct. So it's a big loss there.
Yeah, he's out for the year.
He's out for the year. Yeah, Brandon Graham's out for the year. So it's an interesting game, but right now Dallas just looks a little bit more complete to me. I'll take the Cowboys, and I'll take the over 51.5. I think both teams score in this one.
I think the advantage for the Dallas Cowboys comes on the offensive line here because I do think they have a better offensive line coming into this one than the Eagles. Now, that wouldn't be the case if Brandon Brooks was in and Jordan Mailata, so you're down 2 starters on the front line for the Eagles, but you do have a mobile quarterback against a weak pass rush with the Dallas Cowboys. But I do think, though, the Eagles can hold up in the secondary. Take a look at Pro Football Focus through the first 2 weeks. The Eagles have the 3 of the top 15 cornerbacks in the NFL. Nelson 8th, Maddox 12th, and Slay 14th overall here. So when you're looking to go strength versus strength, no Michael Gallup, I think they can slow down those wide receivers. Not to say they're going to shut them down because they're still good. And also keep in mind, Amari Cooper is 1 hit away from being knocked out of this ball game with some cracked ribs. So they are a little banged up, but I do think Dallas can win on the ground, which while we're taking a look at this game overall, Pollard is a much better back than Ezekiel Elliott. If he Ezekiel Elliott continues to get the lion's share of carries, they are doing a disservice to this team. The more times Tony Pollard touches the football, the better it is for them. So I think that offensive line coupled with that running game and working off the play action pass should be able to work out well. I need to see more from the Eagles offense because last week you had a touchdown call back for a player stepping out of bounds. You had a 95+ yard pass that didn't equate into any points because you had a terrible 4th down play call inside. So I thought they moved the football decently last week, being the Eagles against the 49ers. But you're going on the road. If this game was in Philadelphia, it's a completely different mindset, and I think the Eagles do come away with the victory. But just being on the road, I'm not so sure. Let's get to some prop bets in this game, which are on my board earlier today. Some of these, Kyle, have moved just a little bit. The early numbers on the FanDuel Sportsbook this morning, Pollard was over 30.5 rushing yards. I see he's now up to 32, which isn't a lot. That's 3 carries with the possibility of busting like a 17 or 18-yard run, which is legitimate for a speedster that he is. I also like Pollard to score a touchdown, which actually increased. It was plus 170 this morning. Anytime touchdown by Pollard, it's now up to plus 180. But the one that has my eye the most, if we're looking for a deep shot in this football game, and if the Eagles are going to have to come within striking distance, somebody's going to have a big day. And I got Devontae Smith with 100 yards receiving and scoring 1 touchdown or more. That's at plus 650 in this ball game here tonight. And it's not coupled with the Eagles have to win. So it's just performance here. 100 yards receiving, 1 touchdown of Devontae Smith. That pays at 650 tonight. That's where I'm looking. Any prop bets that have your eye on tonight here?
Yeah, I love that Tony Pollard one. 13 carries last week. He wasn't a big part of the running game in week 1. That's because nobody runs the ball against Tampa Bay. But you saw last week when they needed the big plays, 13 carries, well over 100 yards. I think that 34 yards is short. Now, the Eagles do have a good front 7. And I will say about that Pro Football Focus rankings, those numbers are inflated because of the matchups they have had so far. Atlanta did not show up week 1, so you're going to have these inflated numbers. The 49ers passing game, not all that dynamic, scored 17 points. What it brings to mind is last night when you're watching that 49er Packer game, Pro Football Focus had George Kittle rated tight end number 14. If your rankings have George Kittle rated as the 14th best tight end in football, your rankings are pure garbage, and you need to get back into the metric and figure it out, because any metric that has George Kittle lower than maybe 4 is absolutely insane.
Yeah, but no, but it's right, though. Look who they played the first 2 weeks, though. Kittle stunk against Detroit and stunk against the Eagles. Like,
well,
he finally woke up last night.
That's just because Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. Let's just call it what it is. Does Jimmy Garoppolo ever do anything special? I'll get to bag on him here in a moment. But is there ever a play where like, wow, what a play by Jimmy Garoppolo? Never. It doesn't exist. It's never happened. It never will happen. And he just stinks. So when you sort of do the football math, right? Okay, the Chargers beat the Chiefs, the Cowboys beat the Chargers, the Eagles lose to the 49ers. You sort of do that weird football math. Dallas looks like the play here. But I do love that Tony Pollard prop. The other prop that I like, Dak Prescott over 24.5 completions. That's at -130. That's out there on our SBR Twitter page as well. They're just going to throw the ball a ton. The Eagles are not the easiest team to run the ball against. They're going to have some resistance there in the front. I expect the Cowboys to throw the ball quite a bit despite the banged-up wide receiving core. Over 24.5 completions makes a ton of sense. And one guy for the Eagles, Quez Watkins. Now, the Eagles run a lot of 2 tight end sets, no doubt about it, with Ertz and Goddard. But you're getting him over 2.5 catches at plus money. He's still playing 49% of the snaps. He's got a matchup in the slot against Jordan Lewis, which I think is the best matchup you have on paper here. Anthony Brown and Diggs are okay. But Jordan Lewis in the slot gives up a completion on 19% of the routes where there's a passing route ran. He's giving up a little over 0.4 of a fantasy point per route ran against. Quez Watkins, big play guy. I think he gets to 3 catches tonight. And another tertiary receiver, Cedric Wilson, replacing Michael Gallup. You mentioned the ribs of Amari Cooper. Yep. He's over 2.5 catches at plus 110. So a couple young receivers who I think are in good spots with decent matchups. They only need 3 catches, plus money in a game where you expect to be points. I like both of those quite a bit. And you talk about one of those long shot ones. I have one here. I'm not in love with Cedric Wilson, but if he has 80 plus yards receiving and Dallas wins, that's at plus 1090. So nearly 11 to 1.
Yeah.
I think the kid can get to 80 yards. They love throwing the ball downfield to him. I think he's going to be one of those sneaky DFS guys tonight. Like Cedric Wilson, Dallas wins, gets 80 yards and they win. 11 to 1. I'll take it. I like that prop quite a bit.
I think it does make sense. And Esteban, throw up the odds boost section for tonight because there are some decent ones out here. You can't get down a lot. And this one is on Caesars tonight, a maximum bet of $25. But if there's a bet out there that's worthwhile taking with these odds boosts, we certainly have to put them up here. Get this one. Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott to combine for 499.5 passing yards, which is roughly 500 yards, which means 250 apiece. I think there's a legitimate chance that they can both get to that number tonight because I do think you'll look. It's nice. Do you get a better environment than in a dome down in Jerry World? No, you don't. 2 defenses that could be had necessarily. We're taking a look at the Eagles. Yeah, they played well against Atlanta, not a great offense. They played well against San Francisco, not a great offense. You're getting a full boat offense tonight here for the Dallas Cowboys. I think they'll be able to move it, but also I do think the Eagles will be able to do some things to move the football against the Dallas Cowboys secondary as well. So I think that one is a decent one here odds boost-wise. Kyle, any odds boost that you're looking at tonight between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, I wish the number was better. It's boosted from 165 to 190 over at DraftKings, but Dak Prescott to throw 3 touchdowns, 3 or more touchdowns. I think that's how they get into the end zone tonight. Could Pollard or Zeke fall in there? Sure, they could. But you know the Cowboys, they're going to put the ball in Dak Prescott's hand. He's going to throw the ball a ton. We expect him to move the ball at home. Gets to 3 touchdowns plus 190. I like that quite a bit at DraftKings.
Yeah, let me take a look tonight to see, because the one I was interested in is player receiving yards for tonight. There's some cheap prices out here. Like, look at Zach Ertz, 18.5 on his number. I mean, it's insanely low. Miles Sanders, 20.5, because you're looking for that screen game to get going. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is also Tony Pollard, an unbelievable screen player who's great in the open field with speed. He's only 21.5 tonight with that number. So there are some low ones. And also, you bring up the Quez Watkins, 30.5. He is a deep play guy. He's like, we always talk about the deep play guys here. Robbie Anderson, right? When you take a look at him, if you say, hey, he's got to go over 40 yards, you're like, okay, if he has 0 at the half, there's a legitimate chance he still might be able to hit that because of the routes he runs. Same thing with Deshaun Jackson. You saw him explode yesterday. That's what he does. So when you see those lower numbers, you say, hey, on a speed guy, you might want to get after. But that's the Eagles game for tonight versus the Cowboys. I think it'll be some pretty good viewing tonight. Am I in love with it? Do I wish I had an official play on this one? I do, but I agree with you. If I'm looking more from a team total perspective, I think the Eagles can get into the low 20s because last Tuesday, same thing with you, a possible play here for the Philadelphia Eagles. The only reason why I'm not going with it, Andre Dillard is the left tackle tonight. Jordan Mailata was beating the hell out of guys over the first 2 weeks. Now you're going to go back to that guy who was a first-round draft pick that seems a little bit soft. We'll see if that holds up tonight. Maybe you line up a couple pass rushers on his side here, particularly Micah Parsons, and see if they can get busy. But Jalen Hurts, a mobile enough quarterback to get away. Any final thoughts on the game tonight, Kyle, between the Eagles and the Cowboys?
Yeah, I think that team total makes sense. And one thing to keep an eye on, we always say, go to SBR odds and shop across the sports books. You're getting the Eagles team total 23.5 minus 125 offshore, a lot of 140s here in the States. So maybe shop around and you have some exposure to different books. You can get a little bit better of a number and get that to 15 cents. But yeah, it's tough to pick a side. If I was, of course, like I said, I lean the Cowboys here. But I do like that Eagles team total. If they don't get to 23.5, they're getting blown out in this game.
No doubt about it here. Let's switch over to the regular season games for week 4 after Monday Night Football. That's Thursday Night Football, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. Take a look at this one, Kyle. 7.5. Yes, you read that right. The Cincinnati Bengals are now 7.5-point favorites in an NFL game on a Thursday night, going against the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, looking at this game early, we don't cap these games. We just give our initial thoughts here. 45.5 to 46. I think it'll be a sloppier game. Do I think the more talented team overall are the Cincinnati Bengals? I do. Is T. Higgins going to come back for this game? They didn't do a lot, but you don't have to do a lot to beat the Steelers and their anemic offense. To say that Jacksonville was a great offense, obviously not. Rookie going on the road. We saw he performed in his first road game versus the Texans. Not very well. But is this a spot where we always talk about, again, remember we said on Sunday, the Raiders, right? First 2 games underdogs. Finally, they were not an underdog. They end up winning the game, but they didn't cover. They play better than that. It's like, hey, let me get points. I'm more comfortable with that. So when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, it's usually them getting points. Now they're laying more than a touchdown. Can we trust it?
I mean, I can't. I mean, Jacksonville, you don't expect to do anything. I know they sort of gave Arizona a run for their money early on in the game, and they got to, 19 points. Let's not forget 7 of those were on, one of the wildest plays, the longest play, or tied for the longest play in NFL history, a 68-yard field goal attempt that's returned for a touchdown. That's very, very fluky. So you figure their offense basically generated 12 points. Their kicking game looks terrible, 2 missed extra points as well. A lot of bad stuff there in Jacksonville. So do I want to hold the bag on Jacksonville as a road team? Absolutely not. But do I want to be holding the bag on the Bengals as a more than a touchdown favorite? Not so much either.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, this one's tough. This is really tough. It's more going to be more fun to watch the 2 number 1 overall picks and see how they do the young quarterbacks Lawrence and Burrow. More than likely, if I bet this one, I'll try to get this under. I'll either take it under a touchdown in the first half. But right now, do I feel comfortable taking the Bengals as over touchdown favorites? Really tough to do. When that's happening, you're trying to make a case for the other team, right? Then we have a short week, Thursday Night Football. I mean, in terms of the worst team in the league, you've got the Jets and Jacksonville 1A and 1B, right? It's hard to have any confidence on either side of this. Maybe Bengals first half is the way I'll lean it. I'll be much more involved in props than I will be on sides in this game.
Yeah, 2 words for me out of this one: no action. That's what it's going to be for me on Thursday Night Football. I don't, it's usually I like to try to find a way to take the home team here. Last week, you try to find a way to take the home team with the Texans. They just had some, backup quarterback and Davis Mills in. But now at least you're getting a formidable opponent, or what you think would be talent-wise in Jacksonville. But I got to tell you right now, there's no way, shape, or form that I'm laying 7.5 points at home with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm just not going to do that. But it's fun to talk about here early in the week, but that will not be on my slate. Let's get to the Sunday early games here, Kyle. 251, 252, Washington and Atlanta. Heineke and Ryan, the 2 quarterbacks down in Atlanta. Atlanta won, and I guess you could say that's good. They were down 14-7 in the fourth quarter, ended up winning 17-14 over the Giants. The Giants even got more injured, if that's even possible. I lost on a team total on the Giants. I would do it again and play it because I was saying the whole cap for me, Kyle, in this game was, hey, look at the Giants. Everybody's healthy. Like 3 minutes into the first quarter, nobody was healthy anymore for the Giants. So they went right down the tubes quickly here, and they ended up losing a game to a horrendous Atlanta offense. I mean, a horrendous one. So now you're taking a look and saying, this is a short number. Washington, -1.5 across the board. Over-under opened up at 49 in New Jersey at FanDuel. That's at 48.5. Even DraftKings now at 47.5, so dropping lower. This is not one of those games, Kyle, that sticks out to me and says, boy, I want to run to the window and take points, but also at the same time, I don't care. Like, Atlanta stinks, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Washington or bust on this. Now, I know Washington got absolutely pummeled by Buffalo, and That's not all that surprising. Josh Allen was absolutely electric, and we sort of talked about that, right? Like he'll be the contrarian type guy with all this wind and the weather and the Washington defense. We're not expecting a lot of points, and he went absolutely bananas. Different animal this week. Matt Ryan, I know they won the game, but that offense looked terrible. The Falcons still look terrible. I haven't had a chance to rewatch that game, but my God. And I got to say, coming into this year, I thought Washington was going to be a good defense. So far, they have been really underwhelming. I mean, have they not? They've just flat out stunk.
They stink.
They stink, and we expected them to be good. So that's one of those things where, hey, it's nice to get a few weeks of data in here. Do I love taking Heineke on the road in Atlanta? Not so much, but I can't back the Falcons right now. I know they beat the Giants yesterday at home, and we sort of talked about it. It was a trap. It was a trap of all traps, taking the Giants at home. Said it right here on our Sunday morning show. It's the trappiest of all the traps because Daniel Jones stinks at home as well. Early in the week, before I get a chance to rewatch these games, I really want to see the kind of fight Washington had later in that game. I only got to see a few plays of that on Red Zone. But right now, I would lean Washington. There's just nothing to like about this Atlanta football team.
Yeah, I mean, they're just putrid all over. They have one wide receiver and nothing else. Oh, Pitts. Your quarterback is so slow in the pocket, a dead-ass arm back there. It's hard to take. So even though Washington, not a great football team, I like the quarterback better on Washington. I like the offensive line better on Washington. I like the wide receivers. I guess it's sort of a push in that. The running backs, Antonio Gibson, a much better running back. And then if you flip it over on defense, yes, the secondary for the Washington football team does stink, but you can't abuse it. Matt Ryan throws blimps out there. It's amazing that they won that football game against a terrible New York Giants team out there, but they did. You got to give them credit for that. But I think the Atlanta Falcons are more like the team that got blown away by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and blown away by the Eagles than the team that eked out a victory over the New York Giants. That's the way I lean early in the week. We'll see how.
And they could get Curtis Samuel back as well. Washington. Curtis Samuel is eligible to come off IR, and that will certainly help that offense in the slot. So.
Yeah, you're just asking me more of a trust on teams. Like it's one of those where you would say, Kyle, betting on Atlanta feels like the Steelers. Like it almost feels like the same offense. Like I just pray that I can get 5 yards from Matt Ryan's arm each and every play. So that's the way I feel in this one early in the week. Let's keep it moving down the list as we go. And boy, oh boy, like you want to talk about some conjecture in some of these games and fighting yourself. The Detroit Lions are going to head into play the Chicago Bears, where Matt Nagy is now saying, Kyle, hey, we might start Dalton. We might start Nick Foles. We might even start Justin Fields this weekend. The one thing that you do know is he is a bad coach. But I have to say this. There's a lot of people that just read clippings and stuff. We're so excited to see Justin Fields and what he does. Even though you take a look, Kyle, and say, week 2, he was horrendous against the Cincinnati Bengals. Not a great defense. Just about gave that game completely away, where the Bengals almost stole it at the end of the football game. So I know everybody's excited. You want to see Justin Fields. He can't play yet in the NFL. And it's not so much his fault. The same way, Kyle, look at Zach Wilson for the Jets. It's not his fault. The entire team stinks around him, particularly with the offensive line. As the maturation process of a young quarterback, what do you want to give him? A good offensive line and a great play caller to put him in spots where he can succeed. Not drop him straight back where he got sacked more than he had completions in the game on Sunday. That is absolutely absurd. You got him buried at the 50-yard line yesterday in Cleveland. And now I look at this and I say, the Bears are 3-point favorites over the Lions. What did I miss here? Now, granted, if Nick Foles is the starter, I actually think that's a decent number because you'll get a veteran performance. But if Justin Fields starts, what about Detroit isn't a great team, but Chicago with Justin Fields on offensive line are wretched.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I got to say, I was bagging on Detroit kind of hard. I know they're not winning games. This is not a good team. But they're not as bad as advertised, right? They have some fight in them. For all accounts, they should have won that game yesterday. The longest field goal in NFL history. Shouldn't even have happened if you use the delay a game beforehand. Detroit gave Baltimore all they can handle. Now, I don't know if maybe we're just if we need to start valuing Baltimore a little bit less, or giving Detroit some credit here. They certainly have some fight. They're a gutsy team. I'm with you. If Justin Fields is the starter, I would lean Detroit. Will I touch this game with a 10-foot pole? Hell no. Yeah. That number is sitting at 42.5, and I would probably I would definitely take the under if Fields is starting in this one. Gross game. This is the game we want to see the least of on Red Zone. Absolutely nobody wants to see anything of this game when you're watching Red Zone. But early in the week, if it's Justin, he looked like a lost puppy. I'm so glad I played Cleveland in DFS yesterday. That defense racked up the points, 9 sacks. The NFL record, for those who are wondering, is Greg McElroy was actually sacked 11 times in his rookie debut, so that's why it's not a record. But yeah, if it's going to be Justin Fields, I know that Detroit defense stinks. I know they're not as good as the Cleveland defense, but nothing inspired any confidence yesterday.
Yeah.
Early in the week, if it's Justin Fields, you got to lean Detroit.
You know, it's a great game when Jared Goff is by far the best quarterback on the field, no matter who the Chicago Bears start. That is sensational stuff here. By the way, quickly, I know a couple people mentioned this in the chat box. It looks like Josh Gordon is going to go to Kansas City. He was one of the beat writer reporters talking about that. And I've done many videos over the years on Josh Gordon, and I don't understand how the NFL should be. Josh Gordon should sue the NFL for like $300 million for continually putting himself in the wrong position. Every single, you ready for the press clippings on this? Hey, we signed Josh Gordon. We're going to help him along. You know what's going to happen 3 weeks later? We wish Josh Gordon all the best because we can't help him, and we're going to discard him once again from the National Football League. Everywhere he goes, leave the man alone. Let him get his life back together. Let him spend it with his family and doing the right things every day. It's clear that he can't be in the NFL. It's a detriment to his mental health and his physical health. Leave the man alone in the NFL. And Josh Gordon to say, I'm not signing with you Chiefs until you give me $30 million guaranteed, then I will show up. Because if I mess up, I'm out again. Because I am so tired, Kyle, of 3 weeks later saying, we wish him all the best. Do you really? Why'd you cut him then?
Yeah, because he had some champagne on a plane. I mean, the standard he has been held to, and look, I get it. If you're making millions of dollars a year and you know the rules, quit breaking the damn rules. He certainly has some culpability in this, but my God, this has been a roll. I'm so over Josh Gordon. When I saw this, I'm like, wait, this isn't happening again, right? This guy's not going to try to play again. And here we go. You're right. He needs to stay away.
They all make it sound like it's a family atmosphere. Like if you were an NFL team, let's just say you're an owner, like, man, this guy is a trouble guy. I want to help him out. You sign him to a contract so he has the best health care, the best psychologist around him, and you tell Josh Gordon, Josh, I never want you to play for my football team. Here's a 5-year contract. Let's get you back on the right track so you can live a healthy, productive life. You're going to be around the guys each and every day. I don't want you to practice, lift weights, or do anything, but I will sign you because I care about you. And the NFL used you up and spit you out repeatedly. I'm going to sign you 5 years, $1 million per year, just so you can get that income. But I never want you to play football again. We're just going to get your mental health right. Why can't we do that? Wouldn't an ownership care about him as opposed to, again, in 3 weeks, we wish Josh Gordon all the best in his future endeavors?
There isn't a single NFL owner that gives a damn about any of those players. I don't care what they say, plain and simple. You know how we know that? We just talked about a game that's happening on Thursday night. Do you think these guys give a shit about any of these players? They don't. They simply don't. Would that be the right thing to do? Absolutely. Has the NFL toyed with this guy for years and years and years? Absolutely. What needs to happen is Roger Goodell needs to hire him as an assistant and a liaison for the NFL. Yes. And you're right, Pam, because nobody has cost another man more money than Roger Goodell to Josh Gordon. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it's not even the NFL's fault, though, but the fact you keep clearing the guy and you sign him like in week 4 and like, hey, we're signing the guy, and you know it's never going to work out because his mind is never right. Like, how many times do you have to be wrong? It's like Jones in UFC. Hey, he's going to come back. No, he's going to do – you know he is a troubled human being. Pay him to stay away and get the help he needs. Not say, hey, can we use an ounce of this guy's talent here? It's clear. Like Josh, you know, he was cool 7 years ago. It was cool. Oh, look at this guy. He can really play. It's not cool anymore. It's ridiculous right now. It's almost mental abuse is what they give him. Hey, we're going to sign to give you high hopes. They get, hey, well, maybe we just, you know, throw him to the streets here. Anyway, let's get back to football here and talk. But I saw that pop up. It's one of those subjects that's always going to come up, and the book ends the same way every single time. Titans and the Jets. I'll tell you which way this game's going to end here coming up this week, Kyle, right? Yeah, you guessed it. The Jets struggling on offense to do anything. And again, I preface this with it's not Justin Fields' fault in Chicago. It's not Zach Wilson's fault. It's the GM and the head coach doing a terrible job. I can't even say the head coach because he's more of a defensive guy, but the offensive coordinator. You should know that your offense is completely inept with no playmakers. You should line up in double tight end sets, max protection every play, hand the football, and just see what happens and say, you know what? In the offseason, we're going to spend money. We're going to get high draft picks. We're going to get some weapons in here because Zach Wilson playing out there right now, it's ridiculous. Now, he has played some pretty good defenses over this first couple weeks. The Titans defense, not as good as those first 3 defenses I believe that he's faced. But at the same time, the Jets absolutely stink. And if you're taking the Jets, I need at least 21.5 points, and I'm being serious.
Yeah, no. And look, we talk about it all the time. Road teams over a touchdown, never a great idea. But this is the Jets. This is the Jets. They couldn't even muster a single point. Now, I know the Denver defense is good, but my God, 0 points. They've looked absolutely atrocious. Zach Wilson looks like Johnny Manziel at his worst. It does not look good. And you're right, it's not his fault. They're completely devoid of talent up and down the roster. They bring in a defensive-minded coach who I love from the 49ers, Robert Saleh. But how does that help when you draft a quarterback number 2? He's not the quarterback whisperer. He's not going to make things any better here. The Titans should rack up the points. Derrick Henry is going to run up and down this team. There are some injuries at the wide receiver position for the Titans. A.J. Brown obviously left that game, so some concern there. But you got Julio Jones, you've got Tannehill, you got Derrick Henry. Tennessee should roll here. I don't give a damn what the number is. You're right. Until I see anything out of the Jets, if this gets up to 12.5 or 13, I'll probably feel pretty confident and put that in my pick six. Right now, early in the week, it was when I looked at all the games, it was the one line where I'm like, okay, I actually feel pretty confident about this one. It might be the only one right now. It's a tough week when you look at some of these lines, but there's no way you can back the Jets right now. It's Titans or bust.
Yeah, you got to be careful in these games, too, because when we talk about them most of the time, A.J. Brown's probably going to miss the game, which is a capable wide receiver. But the blueprint's out there to beat the Jets. Don't do anything, conducive to losing if you're for your own offensive team. Go out there and just play vanilla for the first 2 quarters. The Jets will give you the football repeatedly. You can get up double digits and just salt the clock away. That's the only reason why I get leery in these games. Not from a spread perspective, but like a team total going against them. The Jets defense isn't very good, but when you know you're playing an offense that stinks, the mindset is different. Like when you go into Kansas City with the Chargers, you know what the Chargers are doing? 4th down, don't give a damn. We ain't punting. We know we have to score touchdowns. Now, when you play the Jets, you're like, hey, 4th and 1 from midfield, put this team back inside the 5-yard line. Let's do some damage. The Browns and the Vikings, good game here, rising up from their grave. Look at the Minnesota Vikings, a couple plays away from being 3-0 in the season. And if you would tell me week 3 they would be without Dalvin Cook playing Seattle, I'd say probably sign me up on the Seattle Seahawks in that one. They played very well, and Kirk Cousins, the great regular season quarterback that he is, showed up once again and led his team to victory. He might get a punch in the mouth here by one Myles Garrett coming to town today with a hellacious pass rush. I got to say, early in the week when we're trying to take a look at these lines and differentiate what matters and what doesn't, I agree with Cleveland being a slight favorite here, Kyle.
Yeah, you just wonder what you're going to get out of that offense. Odell Beckham looked like he was Odell Beckham, made some nice plays there. Of course, they are still a little bit banged up. The Vikings are a different team at home. Kirk Cousins is a different quarterback at home. Now, he's not great against winning teams. And earlier in the look, you know how I feel about the Vikings. Those wide receivers are tough to contain. When Thielen and Jefferson get going, that offense can really move. Looking at both of their team totals, you got 27.5 for Cleveland, 26.5 for Minnesota. That one sort of interests me. If I can get them under that 27 number, they're going to have to score points. They're not great at stopping the run. You saw what Chris Carson and company did yesterday. It was a shame. I had the Seahawks team total. They had 17 points in the first half. And then, like you astutely said, I believe it was on Sunday's show, sometimes they get going and then they just disappear and don't do a damn thing. And that's what Seattle did. It's a little bit better defense here for Cleveland, so it makes me a little nervous. I'm going to have to think on it a little bit more throughout the week. Early on, Vikings over 26.5 makes a lot of sense. Just to touch on the Jets, their team totals at 19.5. Don't you just smash the under on that? Do you expect them to get to 20 points? I think under 19. I don't know if I've ever taken a team total under in the NFL, but this might be the first time I might be taking that under 19.5. But yeah, right now, early in the week, I lean Cleveland. I want to watch some more of that game yesterday. I was trying to get the hell away from it. It was so brutal to watch Justin Fields on the field. This is going to be a real test in the Dome. 2 good offenses. There's a little bit more firepower from Minnesota, so I will say they are a live dog at home right now. This game should be a lot of fun. I think the line is right. It's a close game, essentially a pick 'em. Early in the week, I'll take that defense of Cleveland more than Minnesota's. That's what gives them the slight edge to me early on.
All right, let's keep moving here. Indianapolis and the Miami Dolphins. Miami goes on the road. Decent performance, but didn't pick up the victory, losing in overtime to the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Indianapolis Colts, same story, another day, close in the fourth quarter. They can't win this football game. I even had a team total over 19.5, was ready to cash my ticket early in the fourth quarter when the Indianapolis Colts had a 1st and goal from the 7-yard line, ended up with a field goal, and that's all they would get for the remainder of the game. Nice win for the Tennessee Titans. I think they did what we expected here. There was no way from a side perspective you were really fighting and saying, you know what, I got to get to the Colts side of this one, because we didn't know during the last week if Carson Wentz was even going to play. Thought he gave it his all, but just wasn't enough for a victory here. And that seems like commonplace now for the Colts, who look like they lose again. Quentin Nelson to a high ankle sprain. They just can't get it right. And sometimes injuries catch up to you on the year. But looking at this game overall, not overly impressed with Brissett outside of that fourth quarter comeback, leads them down for a touchdown drive, punches in a 2-point conversion. They weren't dynamic in that game. I do look to more of an under perspective here between Wentz and Brissett in this game. 43.5 now at the FanDuel Sportsbook, down from 45.5, Kyle.
Yeah, and doesn't it feel like that's what I took away from yesterday? If you remember that tying drive, it was a deep ball into the end zone, then pass interference, and they get the ball at the 1 yard line. Pass interference, this whole spot of the foul thing with pass interference needs to go away. It just needs to be a 10 or a 15-yard penalty, and let's knock off.
No, we love
BS.
it for team totals.
Because
I do. It's just
too.
Don't you dare.
It just becomes too much. I mean, the Packers had 750 yards in receiving from pass interference penalties last night. It felt like every time you turned around, a deep ball, pass interference, pass interference, pass interference. Get the hell out of here, Jerome Boger. Damn ladies man referee. Anyways, I digress. So it's another tough game, right? Jacoby Brissett at home against his former team. You've got the Colts coming into town. I think I might be buying low early in the week. The Colts were close enough to covering that game against Tennessee. I'm going to rewatch that game, of course, that Miami Raiders game I saw a lot of. Early in the week, I'll say the Colts are live, but I don't love it. Very, very tough game, and points may be at a premium here. I might lean that under 43.5.
Yeah, let's see what happens in that game here. But it's a fascinating one. We'll see if Carson Wentz, also Frank Reich said, didn't come out of the game any worse for wear from those 2 sprained ankles. So maybe he looks a little bit better, at least a little bit more mobile against the Miami Dolphins this weekend. Panthers and the Cowboys won that. We do have a Cowboys game tonight. And it's hard to project what's going to take place in that final number until we see who comes out of the football game and what the actual margin of victory or loss is for the Dallas Cowboys. But the one thing we do know for the Panthers, nice win last week on the road. I get it. But then again, you don't have Christian McCaffrey in this one. So if we're leaning towards the Panthers getting 5 points at this point, let me just see if we had any updated numbers. Now, it's already going down. DraftKings down to 3.5. Pinnacle minus 4.5 plus 106. We haven't even played tonight at this time. I do like what I see out of the Carolina defense, but now they're down J.C. Horn, injury to Christian McCaffrey on offense. They are going on the road early in the week. Probably look, if the Cowboys win tonight against the Eagles, it's pretty fair to say if the Cowboys are only laying 3.5 or 4, I'm looking at that side this weekend.
Yeah, especially with no Christian McCaffrey, right? That's a huge injury for Carolina, and they try to replace it with Chuba Hubbard and Royce Freeman. That's just a completely different beast. Then today they trade away Dan Morgan, who was actually was being used pretty frequently by Sam Darnold. It was really the first time he's had an effective tight end his entire career. They never had one with the Jets. So, yeah, of course, we got to get through Monday night. Obviously, if Dak Prescott goes down with an injury tonight or Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are out, you got to wait to see what happens tonight. But as we sit, I know Carolina's they've overachieved, certainly, and they haven't looked terrible. But with all those injuries in the secondary, which is why they made that trade today for C.J. Henderson, who is not any better than anything they have, let me just assure you of that right now, got to lean Dallas. It seems a little bit short, right? Without McCaffrey, I want no part of Carolina. Take the Cowboys at home.
Yeah, see what that comes in. Also, you got a high over-under as well at 50 in that spot because I don't know how explosive the Carolina offense is going to need to be. And also, Carolina showing up with a decent defense here early in the season, 263, 264. We got the New York Giants heading down to play the New Orleans Saints. Nice win by the Saints up in New England. The Giants looked atrocious, and not only atrocious, they got even more injured here. Sterling Shepard and also Slayton probably going to miss this football game. Kenny Golladay still with that banged-up hip. Saquon Barkley just doesn't look all the way back and also playing behind a banged-up and injured offensive line. Daniel Jones going on the road. You see probably New Orleans, who looks to be having a formidable defense here so far early in the season. Their favorite, again, opened up at 6.5. Now we sit at 7.5 across the board, and over under a 43.5. And everything about New Orleans, crazy, Kyle, screams unders now as opposed to overs in the past.
Yeah, and this screams under, doesn't. I mean, that defense with Marshawn Lattimore back, you see the big difference it makes when they have Marshawn Lattimore. It can take away that side of the field. It allows Dennis Allen to really unleash the fury, rush the passer, get after the quarterback. They're tough against the run. It's going to be tough sledding for that Giants offense. Do I love laying 8 points with New Orleans? Not so much. When I look at the team totals here, the Giants at 16.5, they have them lower than the Jets. So that one's 17 points for an NFL offense does feel a little low, so I might have some interest there. Lean the Saints early in the week. You just can't back the Giants on the road. And will this game finally be back in New Orleans? Will they get to play this game in the Superdome? I'm not 100% sure. But if they do, that's a huge boon for New Orleans, and I would like to back them a lot more. More than likely, if it's over a touchdown, I'll just take a first half if I'm taking a side and get that thing under a touchdown.
Yeah, who would have known? Jameis Winston just need him to throw for $125 or so a game, and they can actually win football games. It's amazing. This new NFL, which is so built on offense, it looks like the New Orleans Saints now are built on defense. Crazy in every single way. Now we're coming up on another game here with a team that's going to play tonight in the Philadelphia Eagles, returning home to play the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you take a look at the lines across the board, they're at 6.5, and I agree with the line movement. I think it's about right. But at the same time, Kyle, I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and I say they can't cover spreads to save their lives. They are terrible at covering numbers. But each and every week, you see them. Last week, the 6.5s, the 6s quickly turned into 7s. No way they lose this game. The Chargers took it to them and beat them in their own building, which outside of – and you could look at make another, point for the Kansas City Chiefs. They should have lost opening weekend to the Browns and had a hellacious comeback where a lot of things went their way. Then they go on the road. They lose to the Baltimore Ravens. Then they lose at home here to the Chargers. Now, the Eagles in the same stratosphere offensively as the Kansas City Chiefs? No, but neither team is. But their defense isn't very good. They turned it over on their first 3 possessions yesterday. So I'm waiting to see where this line settles in at. If it gets to a 7, depending on what happens tonight for the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to take the Eagles, right?
Yeah, they just don't cover spread. This has teaser written all over it, right? It's hard to imagine a world where the Chiefs lose their 3rd straight game. They should beat the Eagles. Andy Reid obviously going back to Philadelphia. Just went to the hospital yesterday, but it looks like he was released and everything is fine. So there's a lot of storylines certainly in this game. Hard to imagine the Chiefs losing, but you can't take them. You can't take them because you're right. They just don't cover spreads. Or something like 2-12 now in their last 14 games against the spread. Got to lean the Eagles early in the week if that gets more than a touchdown. This would be a teaser spot for me. I expect the Chiefs to win, but you just can't trust them to win by a ton of points. So early in the week, take the points anytime the Chiefs are laying them.
Texans and the Bills. I don't know why we're handicapping this game as 16.5 to 17.5 are on the board, and it sounds about right. I still don't understand, watching that film a couple weeks ago between the Steelers and the Bills, how the Bills actually lost, but they pummeled the Miami Dolphins, beat the hell out of the Washington football team. Now they're going to get a quarterback that has no plans on sticking around in the NFL much longer than his couple quick starts here. And we'll see how that one, they drafted him, and maybe they think he's going to be good, but he has no talent around him. And the Buffalo Bills will probably eviscerate them. But having said that, it's still an NFL team. It's still 17 points. And the 48.5, I guess the majority is going to have to come from the Bills because their team totals, Kyle, in the mid-30s, which is incredible.
That's crazy. Yeah, 33.5 Bills team total early in the week offshore, 14.5 for the Texans. You just can't. Unless you can make a case for the team getting the double-digit points, we say it all the time, you can't touch it. It's way too many points, just absolutely way too far. Now, do I expect Houston to even come remotely close to winning this game? No. Buffalo will be in the driver's seat from post to post. 17 points, a little too rich for my blood. I got to stay away. But look, if you're doing like money line parlays or anything like that, of course, include Buffalo. They should beat the brakes off of Houston this week.
How about this one here? Rams and the Arizona Cardinals here. The battle of the unbeatens. 53.5, 54.5 opening numbers here. The Rams favored by 6 to 5.5. I don't think there'll be any letdown here, but you're going to have a fast surface for Kyler Murray and Arizona to play off of. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins healthy this week, shakes that rib injury, and he can be a full participant because it looks like he was more of a decoy last weekend than not, but they have a lot of weapons on Arizona. This will be a fun one. Aaron Donald busting through that offensive line, chasing around Kyler Murray in the backfield. 5.5, 6s seems I mean, look, I love the Rams. They're good, but it seems a little rich right now, Kyle. A little rich.
It does. It's another one where you want to circle the Rams every week. That passing game looks absolutely electric. Yeah. Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. It's a marriage made in heaven, those two. It's absolutely sensational. And there are holes in that Arizona secondary. Look, we saw a little bit of that yesterday with Jacksonville early on in the game. And Kyler Murray, for as explosive and fantastic as he is, certainly is prone to make a big mistake here or there because he's trying to do a little bit too much. So I'll lean the Rams early in the week, but my God, I do not love. Do I think the Rams win the game? I do. This would be another like early in the week. Maybe you tease this down and get it to 1 or a half a point.
I would rather go the other way, to be honest. Like, if I was teasing this game, I'd probably take it over 10 points. I
exactly.
I think Arizona is very good and legitimate to come back to.
Yes,
at least
I was just going to say, either way, I think it's a solid tease. Either way. This game should be a lot of fun. That total's a little bit high. Sometimes these divisional games can get a little bit dicier, so I don't know if I want that 55 yet. And looking at the Cardinals team total at 23.5, that's at minus 145. I think they can get to 24 points here. The Rams team total's at 30.5. That gets a little scarier. But again, I don't love this Cardinals secondary. Rams should be able to throw the ball. This game's going to be a lot of fun. Lean the Rams earlier in the week, but it's a really tough number.
All right, we're going to stick it. How about the NFC West is just bangers every week when they play each other. Seattle and San Francisco, at home in San Francisco. Disappointing, I don't want to say effort because they should have won. It's just, Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, throwing to a dominant wide receiver and them kicking a 51-yarder, which absolutely I don't know how it happened, but the Green Bay Packers escaped with a win, which maybe you get a little bit more value. San Francisco favored by 3 in this game. Still don't love their running game, but then again, how much you love Seattle's running game if Chris Carson doesn't show up at the starting line this week for the Seattle Seahawks? So now you're going up against, okay, Russell Wilson, better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo? Absolutely. But Seattle on the road on grass, can you trust them? And also, is that number a little bit too high, Kyle, the 52.5?
Yeah, I think the total's high. I really do. And we saw it from Seattle. They can get off to a hot start, but they just sort of fall apart there. Russell Wilson, it's kind of an enigma. It's really frustrating to watch. If you're only putting up 17 points against that Vikings defense, I wasn't overly impressed with the 49ers defense. I think, the front seven's still really, really good, but there's holes in that secondary. Josh Norman bruised his lungs, so he may not even be able to be there. So they're really going to be relying on some of these young guys and signing guys off the practice squad. There's going to be holes in that secondary, but yeah, I'd lean the under, especially I'm seeing some 52.5s offshore, Pinnacle offshore. It's juiced up at -117. But early in the week, look, BetOnline -2.5. We're going to have Dave Mason on from BetOnline here soon. I like that number. I would lean the 49ers here. I was disappointed in them last night. They got off to a slow start, but were able to get it going despite all those injuries from the running back position. Niners typically very, very good against Seattle at home. I'll lean the 49ers early in the week, but I got to watch more tape, that's for sure.
Yep, Monday is a good day, perfect day for the opening lines, which you guys showing us a lot of support. We had over 12,000 views of this video last week, so thank you so much for your love and support out there. That's why we do it. Chat box comes in, puts up some good statistics out there. We try to relay the information, have some fun, but it's awesome when you get that great of feedback coming in. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. 89,700 subscribers here. Hit that subscribe button. Turn the notification bells on so you don't miss any shows. This week, no blinking camera, so everything's working out just well on our side here, Kyle, as we move down the list. The Ravens and the Broncos. All right. 4 o'clock games, man. So we talked about Arizona and the Rams. We talked about Seattle and San Francisco. Now we line up Baltimore and Denver. But it's a shame. I love what Teddy Bridgewater's doing. Now, keep in mind, if you see the 3 victories for the Broncos, you might want to taper the expectations just a little bit here because it's not exactly beating both New York football teams and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But still, it's the NFL. You can only play who's in front of you, and that's a 3-0 start. You're going to get a test this weekend in Baltimore. We don't expect them to be down half of their defense due to COVID and injuries this week. They'll be able to bounce back. But again, it's tough to play in that environment. Teddy Bridgewater has been great, but they lost another wide receiver, Kyle. Can we continue to trust them? If you look at the lines, -1.5, slight favorite towards the Denver Broncos out in the thin air of Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know which side to take here. I really don't. It's one of the tougher home field advantages in the league for Denver. Baltimore has been, I guess we could call them underwhelming. It was a great performance against the Chiefs and a great win for them. But when you're needing 66-yard field goals to beat the Lions and you're getting beaten by the Raiders after, look, I don't mean to bag on the
Hollywood
Raiders
Henderson catches a couple passes here. I mean, come
on. The drops by Hollywood Brown. Sure.
Yeah.
Right now, I'll say
Brown, excuse me. Yes.
Baltimore looks like one of the liver dogs of the week, right? If they're a slight underdog, they're certainly live here. Like what I've seen out of Denver, I think the under 45 makes a lot of sense. 2 good defenses here. That Denver defense is sensational. It's going to be Lamar's not going to run up and down the field on this defense.
No.
So I'd lean the under here. Tough to take a side, but earlier in the week, if I'm looking for a live dog, looking for some plus money, Baltimore certainly hits the list.
Steelers and the Packers. How about this one? Expecting rain in the forecast in Green Bay, so maybe a sloppy one, 45.5, but the Packers are favored by 7. So now we're seeing the, Pittsburgh Steelers that we're used to them playing in that favored role, particularly the past 2 weeks at home and coming up absolutely lame. Now they go on the road, and there's not a lot to like. Hey, look, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers offense. You got a new offensive coordinator, and he still seems to look, I don't know, maybe he's watching all last year. Hey, Ben, you know what we're going to do? We're going to throw quick screen after quick screen to the actual running backs and the wide receivers and a quick slant. Every once in a while, you can throw a jump ball to Claypool. Good luck out there. I thought you're going to have a brand new offense here, Steelers. It absolutely stinks, and I don't see it getting any better. I don't love the Green Bay defense, but I can't stand the Pittsburgh offense. Now, maybe TJ Watt comes back. Maybe he makes, an impact in this game since he missed the last one. But I am completely out on the Steelers. I was out on the Steelers over the summer. I wasn't buying anything, Kyle, that Ben Roethlisberger and that offense was trying to sell us, and it's the same exact story this year.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a Packers team total over 26.5 minus 120. Expect them to maybe get to 28 points. We saw what the Bengals
Do they
offense
need
was
to,
able.
though?
But then
Do we even get a
that's the
running
real
mate, though?
question. And we
Yeah.
have the weather, right? So that's kind of the bummer
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Until otherwise, I will not back the Steelers. So if you're going to bet this game, you got to find a way to take the Packers. If you're uncomfortable with the touchdown, bet the first half, make it a teaser spot, make it part of your money line parlay. I cannot envision a world where Pittsburgh goes into Lambeau, where Aaron Rodgers is exponentially better, and it's hard to imagine him being any better after what we saw out of him last night. Got to go with the Packers here early in the week. You just can't back Pittsburgh. There's just nothing to trust. His arm is dead. That offense looks pathetic, and there's holes in that secondary.
And you know what's interesting here, because I don't know, does it get any better? But now, you have this sort of, I don't want to say trap situations. You saw the Steelers at home minus 2.5. Ooh,
it is a trap.
I don't know. Maybe should I take them? And then you see the Pittsburgh Steelers getting 7 on the road. Like, hey, when's the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers got 7? And you can dime into this football game and try to get it, because they were dogs in week 1. They actually won the game, even though they didn't, I don't want to say mean to win the football game, but they shouldn't have won the football game versus the Bills. But how about the Sunday night football game here as we line up the Bucs and the Patriots? So happy that this game is in New England. Brady returns home. They take a loss, and hey, look, Rams were really good, and that's a good football team. No shame in them losing that game, but now you have to refocus yourself. And I'm sorry, I see the minus 6.5, and I do agree Tampa should be a favorite. By 7, I'm not so sure. But at the same time, boy, if you were looking for a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones to say, hey, lead us to victory and keep us in the ball game, very underwhelming the past 2 weeks. He didn't have to do anything against the Jets. So he did what he wanted. But last week, when you had to step up in some adversity, didn't look very good doing that. But they are at home in this game. Big things doing. But make no mistake about this. Tom Brady is not coming home to win this game 24-23. If he has the chance, he wants to hang 50 on the Patriots. Now, the Patriots got a good defense. Not to say that's the case. But if we're looking for a salt-away game in the fourth quarter where Tampa Bay has the lead, you ain't getting that here. I think Tom Brady is out for blood, and maybe that's a way to look at a possible team total for the Buccaneers trying to air it out. Let me just get a quick number here, Kyle. A quick look at the early weather reports. 55 degrees, under 5-mile-an-hour winds. Perfect.
Home game for Tom Brady, right? Who knows the stadium better than Tom Brady? So I don't even really consider this a road game for him. They're going to be highly motivated. That pass rush of the Bucs are going to give this young quarterback fits. New England's not going to be able to run the ball. You simply don't run the ball on Tampa Bay. So you're telling me Brady and all of those weapons versus Mac Jones and Jacoby Myers? Yeah, I think the Patriots win by I think the Bucs win by a touchdown here. I love that it's under a touchdown right now. I will take it. I expect the Buccaneers to come out and pound on the Patriots here. I don't like anything that I'm seeing out of that Patriots offense. I had them a couple weeks ago, their team total against the Jets. They were able to get us there. Tough sledding in this one. I got Tampa Bay. I think they beat the brakes off of New England.
Yep, Nuke Worker, Brady going to break an NFL record in New England. How ironic. Isaiah Moore, does Brady dislike his old team? Yeah, I think he does. Yeah. It's not so much he dislikes the players on the team, but he would love to go out there and iron one out on the head football coach, Bill Belichick. Let's get to the final Monday night game, and a good one here. Look at this, Raiders and the Chargers. Taking a look across the board, some of these lines, 3.5 now, even 4s starting to show up here in Pennsylvania at Bet Rivers and also Parks. Man, 52.5. And I agree with it. I'm in love. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm in love with Justin Herbert. This young kid can play football anywhere, anytime. And I didn't know if we knew the talent coming out of Oregon, but now he's just putting it on display. He was awesome. And look at the rookies this year, right? Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, what are we getting out of this guy? Herbert was awesome right out of the gate last year. In a game he wasn't even supposed to start outside of getting a needle in your lung for Tyrod Taylor. He's been nothing short of sensational. And I know the Vegas Raiders are playing really good football. I'm not going against the Chargers. I love that football team.
Yeah, and they have the better defense, right? The Chargers defense is actually very, very good. The Raiders defense, look, we saw it. You gave up 28 points to Jacoby Brissett and the Dolphins yesterday. I mean, you got absolutely torched by what should have been an anemic offense. So I know the Raiders fans love them. I know they're winning games. They're a surprising 3-0 team, a very surprising 3-0 team. If you had asked me before the year they start 3-0, I would have said you were crazy. But their defense does not match up. You saw the injuries happen to them in the secondary. Now you have Keenan Allen and a resurgent Mike Williams. All that talent around Justin Herbert, by far the better quarterback in this game. I don't give a damn what anyone says about Derek Carr. I think the Chargers cover here. I like them on Monday night.
Good stuff, man. Absolutely good stuff here. Now, a nice little part of the show that we like to get into to see how the books did over the weekend, the opinion they have on this week, and always a good friend of the show, Dave Mason from BetOnline. Dave, welcome into the program.
Thanks, guys. I mean, after the results, I would have much been happier to be a guest on one of the last week or the week before show, but here I am, man. We got beat up a little bit yesterday, but could have been worse, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, let's take a look here right off the bat, Dave. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kyle takes a lot of big time credit. My pick six contest picks take a lot of credit for that as well. The books, as we said, did Sunday, got a little bit of a intrigue there. Surprising betting results yesterday from your end, Dave. Like, I don't know about like cheering on a team or the books, but what from your end actually surprised you with that NFL card yesterday? Could be a big winner, could be a big underdog, could be a game that stayed under the total or went over the total. What was surprising to you from a book's perspective yesterday?
I was surprised. One of our big winners was the Rams, and I was surprised that the action wasn't more balanced on that game. We need the Rams big, and they came through. This 1 o'clock games are tough. The 4 o'clock games are awesome, and then the night game we lost. But yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't more action on the Rams, but thankfully there wasn't. And the Bills and the Broncos. They were 10-point favorites, and usually when those spreads get up in double digits, you don't really get that much lopsided action. But those Jets are just so bad. I mean, that was like, I think 54% of the money was on the Broncos, thankfully. So, the 4 o'clock games, like I said, were really good for the house. And that was the only one we kind of sort of lost. The other three we did real well in. So, I was surprised that wasn't more lopsided, but with those Jets, man, people just should be fading them no matter what.
Yeah, what the hell? 46% of the money came on the Jets. What the hell is going on?
I don't know, man.
That's the craziest thing I've heard. I don't know.
I had to check that a few times. I didn't know what the heck was going on there.
Yeah, that actually blows my mind. I would never believe that if I didn't hear it straight out of your mouth. So, injuries are running rampant through the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. So it's creating you look at this Texans game this week without Tyrod Taylor. We've got a line at 17. How do you guys approach these market inefficiencies with these injured quarterbacks? And are people typically betting against the backup quarterbacks? What does this do to the books when you have all these quarterback injuries?
Yeah, I mean, some of the injuries so far have been the guys like Andy Dalton, for instance. I mean, he goes out and the person everybody wanted to see, Justin Fields goes in, and it's like, well, he's no better either. So, will that be Nick Foles this weekend? So, are the odds going to move too much there? But yeah, I mean, Texans at Bills, 17 points. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of points. Yeah. Not a lot of money on it yet, though. Those big double-digit favorites. Not a lot of people. Those games don't get as much action unless you were the Patriots. 5 years ago, whenever those obscene spreads were. But the higher the spreads get, people don't bet as much. But yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge, right? It's always the biggest challenge with football for us as quarterbacks, and but once one of those big name guys go down or whatever, that's when it gets really challenging. So far, it hasn't been too bad. And there's different risk management things you use. You open the odds up earlier in the week at a lower limits, and you just gradually raise them. And if there is something really funky going on, you keep that one game a little bit lower. And we take the sharp action here at BetOnline, so we let that kind of shape the odds for us.
There you go. I mean, you got to figure the Dolphins, right? Dolphins yesterday with Jacoby Brissett, and you got to figure the whole world was on the Raiders, so it kind of paid off for you guys a little bit yesterday, right?
No, it's great. That was a really good result for us, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's another quarterback that's like, well, is that really a downgrade, upgrade? It's
yes,
too. It's the quarterbacks that have been injured so far, they're not really the needle movers yet. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we don't really see any of those big needle movers injured, because that's always a shame to see. But we've kind of been dodging those bullets. It's like, okay, Tua is out. Is that really? Him to Brissett, is that really moving the odds too much? Andy Dalton to Fields to maybe Foles. What the heck's that doing to the odds?
Right.
Next to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sliding those things around too, because when you take a look at the Titans, we didn't even know if Carson Wentz was going to make it to the starting gate, but still there were odds to bet on, and boy, it wasn't going to be good if Carson Wentz moved down the list to Jacob Eason or Hundley off of the practice squad. It's always interesting to see some of those. But Dave, we got a big Monday Night Football game tonight. The Eagles and the Cowboys. Notoriously, the Cowboys take in a lot of money. From your side and perspective tonight, what's the house rooting for, and how do you possibly see this game playing out from your perspective?
Well, I'm from your neck of the woods, so
I heard the drawing right there.
Anytime you ask me about the Eagles, you can kind of take my opinion with a grain of salt. But yeah, we're gonna need the Eagles tonight, big, which is great. I always it's always makes it a lot easier when the house is rooting for my hometown team. So it's gonna be a huge decision, and it's gonna be extra big tonight because so many people have a lot of money in their account. That's what happens when you get beat up on Sunday, when the house gets beat up on Sunday. That Monday night game has so much action on it, and the casino manager is the happiest guy in the company. The guy who runs our casino product, he is so happy because his numbers are through the roof because everybody takes their money into the casino Sunday night. So yeah, the action's crazy. About 64% of the cash is on the Cowboys. We'll need the Eagles outright as well. So big Eagles fans here tonight. How I see it playing out, I'm a little nervous, man.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if we can keep up with the Cowboys. Hurts is still, I don't know, showing flashes, and Graham out. That's big. Brooks already banged up, so we're already experiencing some injuries. We have a good starting team, but the depth is very questionable, Donnie. I think. So we're already starting to lose some of our better players on both sides of the ball. So I don't know.
That's going to be tough. Tonight's tough.
Not optimistic, but let's do it.
I'm rooting for the Cowboys. Screw the Eagles. I'm rooting for the Cowboys.
Oh, man.
Let's go. No, I can't. I actually can't do that. That makes me want to throw up in my mouth, too. I don't know. I hate both these teams so much. I don't know what to do with myself tonight. So look, the books never sleep. Sports betting never sleeps. The NFL, it feels like, never sleeps. So even though we're still talking about week 3, it's on to week 4, and there's already got to be money coming in. Week 4, what are you looking at week 4? Which games interest you this week? And maybe early on, just sort of getting an indication where the public is. What are you going to be rooting for in week 4?
Oh my God! Well, that primetime game's the big one. I mean, that I was just looking at those numbers, and it's borderline perverse, man. It's taking on so much early action. The Buccaneers are giving 6.5 to the Patriots. Of course, it's Brady's homecoming, and you just saw the look on his face last night when they were losing, and he just had that pissed off look on his face. And how many times have we seen that look over the years where he's just ticked off, getting embarrassed? And I don't know what the ATS record is when Brady has a ticked off face the week after, how they do. But just going on memory, it seems like they always do well. Yeah. So 93% of the early bettors are on the Buccaneers, laying 6.5 at the Patriots. Other big decision, Donnie, the Eagles, man. Everybody's betting on the Chiefs. Yeah, God, look at the schedule. Boy. The schedule doesn't do them any favors either. Oh my God, that's about 85% of the early actions on the Chiefs. Eagles are getting 6 at home. Those are Titans. Titans, Jets. Speaking of the Jets. That's about 92% of the action is on the Titans. So yeah, we don't. That's not going to be choppy like this. It's not going to be chop action like the Broncos Jets, unfortunately. And the teasers, man. Everybody's going to be teasing the damn Titans down against the Jets. I mean, those teasers, dude. I mean, those Cardinals teasers yesterday. I think 98% of the teaser cash on the Cardinals game was on the teasers. Was on the Cardinals yesterday. As opposed to the Jags. I mean, those teasers, when those 6, 7, 8 points, people teasing those down a bit, down to borderline pick 'em or pick 'em. They're sweats, man. Those are huge sweats for us.
It's crazy when you look at it too, because the the theory of, the betting public, we like to have fun. We like to take overs. You like to take the good football teams where the book sits back on Sundays. Like, yeah, we really want the Jets to win. We really want the Eagles to beat Kansas City. We want San Francisco to beat Seattle. And, if you could throw in Pittsburgh upsetting Green Bay there outright to knock down all those teasers, that would be fantastic as well. It's great talking about football with you here, Dave, but let us know about some of the good things here that are going on at BetOnline here for the upcoming weeks and throughout the NFL football season.
Well, throughout the football season, broken record, but we had the earliest opening odds for both college football and NFL. That's better than bonus if you ask me. But if you want bonuses too, get on over to our promotions page. We have great bonuses there, 50% welcome bonus or 100% if you're depositing with crypto. But, unlike other books give you a bonus once in a while. Our bonuses are there 24/7, 365. 35% reload every day with cryptocurrency or 25% with other methods. Get on over to betonline.ag.
There we go. One of our good friends here at the sportsbookview.com network here. That is Dave Mason for BetOnline. Dave, good luck this weekend, but not really.
Come on, Eagles, man. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Tonight
you
and
deserve
next
it.
week.
You deserve it for paying off those damn refs and letting the Dolphins cover. Son of a bitch.
There you go.
All right,
awesome
guys.
stuff,
Take care.
Dave. Thanks
Later,
for joining us. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. All right, Dave Mason from BetOnline. Always a good talk here to see what happens on the opposite end of the spectrum. But Kyle, this wraps up our opening lines edition. I love this show. You get to talk over each and everything. Go over it. Now we start to set everything in motion. We'll come back on Thursday for the NFL Key Show here. Maybe have a best bet or two lined up and ready to go either for Thursday night. Probably not. But for the weekend, looking forward to some good things here. I am rooting for the Eagles tonight. And just to wrap it up again, because I know a lot of people say, hey, what were you guys on tonight? What are you betting? I do like a couple prop bets tonight. Pollard over 30.5 rushing yards. Big swing at Devontae Smith, 100 receiving yards or more, and one touchdown at plus 650. Pollard anytime touchdown at plus 170. And then that odds boost here, which is a max at Caesars of only $25, but it's Hurts and Prescott combined 499.5 pass yards or more. That's what I have tonight, Kyle. Anything that you're looking forward to on tonight?
I'm leaning that Eagles team total. I do like that 23.5. If I'm picking a side here, I do think the Cowboys get it done tonight. Just too many advantages in that secondary. It makes me a little bit nervous for the Eagles. Some props I like: Cedric Wilson and Quez Watkins over 2.5 catches. They're both at plus money. I think it's one of those young guys, some of these tertiary targets, they get there. I love that Tony Pollard rushing prop. I 100% agree. Dak Prescott over 24.5 completions. That's at minus 130. And the odds boost, Dak Prescott to throw 3 or more touchdowns, boosted up to 160. That's over at DraftKings.
Awesome stuff, people. Thank you once again for coming in the chat box, bringing that heat. Keep involved with us. If you have any comments, if you're not watching the show live, put that in the comment section here. Me and Kyle both perusing that throughout the week. Hopefully we can pick out some winners this week, but it's always nice to start the week to talk about the games. We'll see you guys once again on the NFL show on Thursday for the Key Show with Kelsey Kramer, and we'll talk a little bit more about those Pick 6 contest picks. But thanks again for joining us today. I'm Donnie RightSide along with Kyle Purviance. We're the NFL team here at sportsbookreview.com. This was your opening line show for Monday, and as always, good luck on those wagers.